If someone is considering a Model 3 performance versus, let's say, this beast, I like how you call it the beast, what would you tell them? Go drive them both? I mean, is that what it is? Because I'll tell you what, that Model 3 performance is one hot machine.
Just like you said, I will invite them to definitely drive them both and compare how much of a better drive you're going to get with our Polestar 2s. The fact that our Polestar 2s gives you a more adjustable suspension, it gives you a more torque curve that is more associated to how the car is able to bend in corners, will allow you to have more fun with the car. So if you're looking for true performance, I would suggest you get into a Polestar BST.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where today I am in the West End section of Midtown Manhattan, just off of Lincoln Center. And what I found here is a new Polestar showroom. And I called yesterday over to Polestar Westport, Connecticut, and I said, hey, listen, by any chance, do you have a Polestar 3? Because I'd really like to see your new SUV. I spoke to Noah there, the sales manager, and he said, you know, Dave, we do actually have one here on display. It's outside, but if you really want to see the Polestar 3 the right way, what you should do is go into Manhattan and see it for yourself. And there it is right there. So what I want to do today in this video is touch on Polestar. Who is Polestar? What cars do they have? Who makes them? Who owns them? What is this facility all about? And what's the direction that the brand is going? Because I like what I see and I want to share it with you as well. So let's get into it, folks. All right, everyone, so meet my new friend, Jonathan, who is with Polestar. He's a senior sales associate here, but he's worked up through the rankings from one of those, you know, those guys that deliver the cars that know what they're talking about? Usually the sales guys, they never know what they're talking about. Be honest, Jonathan, right?
Very true.
But I mean, this guy knows what he's talking about. And actually, Noah from up in Westport, he said, Dave, you got to go spend time with Jonathan. So Jonathan, welcome to the channel, and tell me a little bit about yourself and perhaps this facility.
Well, thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure to be on the channel, by the way. And yes, we are here at Polestar. This is one of the first facilities, actually, that was fully dedicated to be a Polestar dealership. And I started out as a product specialist, so I got to hand over a grand majority of the first deliveries. And now we have all of our lineup available. And Dave, why don't you come inside and now show you the place?
Absolutely, let's go do it. All right, so Jonathan, what's behind you is an awesome machine. But before we get into the cars themselves, can you tell me a little bit about this facility? Because this is beautiful. And you know, what's interesting is your location. I just came from downtown, the meatpacking. It seems like every EV brand is down there. But tell me a little bit about why you guys have your own dedicated you know, location, and why here?
Dealership was made because they inspired themselves from like a museum feel. They wanted to make sure that when a customer arrived to the dealership, they wanted to be more informed and educated about the car brand to kind of increment the brand awareness. Therefore, that's why you get to see a lot of the pop-ups, and everything else is very interactive, so customers can actually very much touch what the cars are made out of. And the idea of where we're also located allows the curiosity of everybody around to kind of peek in, instead of them knowing that we're just another auto brand right next to another one. We're more like a standout in a place that kind of separates a little bit of more that very rush automotive crowd to the curious crowd out there.
Right, and I've actually, while I've been here, I've seen some people come in just browsing and getting familiar with the brand. You know what I also love is how everything in here, color coordinated, is all white. And it looks so crisp and clean and all that. You know, one of the things I was telling a buddy of mine that I was coming down here to talk to you today, and he's like, Dave, Polestar, what is that? I mean, you know, like, I've heard of it, but isn't that Volvo? Can you tell me and my audience and our audience just a little bit about the brand Polestar for someone who's never heard of it before?
Of course. Yeah, so Polestar has been around actually since the late 70s, actually, and it started out as a after-performance tuning house brand that would take cars like old Volvos, make them a little bit more fun to drive, and they will actually perform in national championships. Now, that evolved to a partnership that now Volvo owns, to a 50-50 partnership with Geely Automotive, which happens to be the parent company of Volvo, and therefore now they've made the company fully independent and produce their own vehicles. And we are aiming to be a fully electric performance car brand. That is the ethos of the Polestar brand. We want to be a driver-focused first brand. That's why all of our cars, you'll find a lot more of the driver engagement, and then the infotainment comes second.
And you get gold seat belts too, which just, you know,
Our Swedish gold.
The Swedish gold. Now tell me a little bit about this car right behind you here. This is the Polestar 1.
It is actually a plug-in hybrid. It's a car that still uses actually one of Volvo's T8 engines, so it's a supercharged and also a turbocharged engine, which is very, very neat. And it's only a 2-cylinder 4-pot. So imagine that. You're getting about almost 346 horsepower just out of that front engine. And then yes, made it to the electric motor in the back. You get a full 638 horsepower, 738 foot-pounds of torque.
Right, wow.
Yeah.
So this thing, you know, Kyle raves about it. He just loves it. And he also thinks this is going to become a collector's item one day because are they still making the Polestar 1 anymore?
No longer in production, actually.
Wow.
Only 1,500 were made, and only 500 came to the American.
To the Americas.
Yes.
Wow, amazing. All right, so then what the second car that you guys brought out was the Polestar 2, right? So tell me a little bit about this one over here.
Yeah, so the Polestar 2 is what we're continuously producing. Actually, we've done more than 100,000 units globally, and it is a sedan with a hatch. So it's quite interesting to see the practicality that you get from a car like such, and I will show you actually what that looks like.
Okay. That's what the Model 3 should do. Let's be honest here, right?
Well, yes. Actually, this is the perfect sedan that you would want to have out there if you actually just want to be out in the outdoors, but then want to come to the city and perfectly blend. This is the perfect example of
Right.
that.
You know, I rented one of these when I was out in LA on a business trip, and I went to Hertz rental car counter at LAX, and believe it or not, they were like, Dave, why don't you take a Polestar 1? And I was like, are you kidding me? You have one for rent? And they said, yeah, they had one for rent. But you know, I wanted to experience the pure electric, and I got the Polestar 2. And you know, the one thing about this car, I found the user experience, the user interface, to be amazing. The Google Maps is great. It's not a car that you're overwhelmed with. It feels like you're at home. And anyone who's thinking about buying an EV, you know, don't just consider Tesla, because I think you'll find that when you get in this car, it's going to feel like, first, a car, and then second, oh yeah, by the way, it's also an EV and it has all the benefits that it.
Yep.
Does that make sense to you? Because that's kind of how I feel.
Well, yes, actually, and the car itself, we like to call it as the perfect balance between analog and the new digital era. There's so many things inside the car that are very practical and, like you said, very easy to live in with the car. You're going to find things that you can have on older vehicles that you're very familiar to, and makes it an easier transition when you're just thinking, hey, all I want is to let go of the internal combustion, move on to some battery, and still keep the car I want. But you still said also you like the Google system, which actually was one of the first cars in the market to have Google full integrated. It's a full, very functional tablet that you can get it for doing standard things like visualizing a movie when you're stationed and waiting for your EV to charge, or getting your driver enhancement qualities from it as well.
Right. All right, so Jonathan, you know, this little sticker down here, when I first saw it, I was like, why in the hell didn't they take that sticker off the car that I just rented? And then I realized, oh, wow, they're describing what the car is all about. Now, you know, I realize this is kind of the Mac Daddy one right here, the expensive.
It is.
But can you take me through sort of the Polestar 2? That's the bread and butter car for the brand, from the base model up to this particular model, and just explain to me the full suite of Polestar 2s?
Of course, Dave. So, the Polestar 2 itself has right now a rear-wheel drive single variant as our introduction model. That one currently now does 299 horsepower and about 361 foot-pounds of torque. And being that it's rear-wheel drive, it comes equipped with all-season tires, so you can have perfect traction even on these probably snowy conditions. Now, the Polestar 2 also has a dual motor all-wheel drive that has no performance, and also that has a full performance, which is quite similar to the one that you have here in front of you. Now, the regular dual motor does 421 horsepower and about 546 foot-pounds of torque, and the fact that it's all-wheel drive it's definitely better for traction. Now the performance one will increment to about 455 horsepower and 546 foot-pounds of torque, and it will come with Brembo brakes, very similar to what you see here. So obviously you have better braking power there. Now the range on the single motor is about 322 miles of range if you equipped it with the 19-inch wheels, and then on the performance variant it could go down as low as 260 miles. The standard dual motor is sitting very neat at 280 miles. So you got that nice sweet spot in between to there. Now with regards to this one here, this is our BST edition 270. Our BST is actually inspired by the Beast concept that was actually debuted long ago at the Goodwood Speed Festival. And what we wanted to do with this car actually is to showcase how far Polestar can go into a very driver-first focused car. This car has reinforced chassis, has Olin suspension that is multiple and manual adjustable, so you yourself can always adjust the perfect driving conditions that you desire. Car is sitting on P0 tires with 21-inch wheels, so definitely when you get them hot enough, they're sticky to the ground. So perfect grocery hauler, you might say.
Right, yeah. And if someone is considering a Model 3 performance versus, let's say, this Beast, I like how you call it the Beast, what would you tell them? Go drive them both? I mean, is that what it is? Because I'll tell you what, that Model 3 performance is one hot machine.
Well, you're very right. You know, the car has a little bit of more power as to this one, but just like you said, I will invite them to definitely drive them both and compare how much of a better drive you're going to get with our Polestar 2s. The fact that our Polestar 2s gives you a more adjustable suspension, it gives you a more torque curve that is more associated to how the car is able to bend in corners, will allow you to have more fun with the car. So if you're looking for true performance, I would suggest you get into a Polestar BST.
All right, great. Can you show me those Olins, those
course.
shocks? Because I think that's pretty wild how they built the suspension being able to be modified like this. And it's not as if it's an electronic damper system. It's a manual system that you actually have to open the hood and change it, which
yes.
I kind of like that. I don't know, I'm a bit of a tinkerer, but tell me about this system, and are these the only two places that you adjust the system, or are there more?
So actually you have in the back as well, so you can adjust the suspension in the back. These are more exposed and a little bit more easier to do, but if you are a true car enthusiast and you like to tinker, you can definitely adjust them yourself, and if you're one that likes to go to the track, you can always set them to be softer or a little bit more stiffer, depending on what you're looking for. These, if you look up close, you can see you have your very different directionals, and it will help you actually adjust how hard or how soft it will actually interact with the road. So this is actually very unique, and you're right, you know, we're used to the electrical adjustments, but like I mentioned, Polestar itself is a brand of where it's very driver focused, and we want to make sure that you are engaged with the product. This is the way that we actually allow you to get in touch with the car.
Excellent, excellent. Next in the lineup is the brand new Polestar 3, which I know is in hot demand. Eventually, this car will be made in South Carolina, as well as, am I correct in thinking the Polestar 2 will be made there as well?
First, the Polestar 3 will be made there, and then eventually, yes, the Polestar 2 will follow suit, and then these cars will be made there altogether.
All right, give me a brief overview of the Polestar 3. I want to do a separate deep dive video with you about the Polestar 3, but tell me a little bit about this car, its ethos, where it comes from, and maybe some things like the price points and all that, and when is it going to be available for sale?
Of course. So the vehicle is actually already in production. The vehicle will hit stores the second quarter of 2024, so we expect our first deliveries to be in the second week of April. And the vehicle came of the idea that we wanted to round out our lineup. We needed an SUV to actually come with our sports car and our natural sedan, and we are trying to also evolve with our design language and truly incorporate what the Polestars will look from the future going forward. The aerodynamics that the car incorporates and everything else that Polestar has been innovating is basically what Polestar 3 will catapult to the world. So we hope that more volumes of sales will come along.
That's terrific. Well, great. Now, am I correct in thinking there's also a Polestar 4 brewing out there as well? Tell me a little bit about that model.
Yes, so we have the SUV coupe, which is our Polestar 4, and yes, it will actually launch first in the China market, and then it will reach stateside. We're hoping by the third quarter of 2024, and that will basically allow us to have an SUV sports coupe and a natural SUV, and therefore have a much bigger lineup and a better offering for customers that like a more sportier and smaller dimension of an SUV.
Gotcha. Tell me a little bit about how, for example, the Polestar 2 shares a lot of, or maybe doesn't share, componentry and technology with Volvo. And then also if you could do the same for the Polestar 3.
Of course. So actually, yes, the Polestar 2 actually does share some components with Volvo. It actually shares the same power displacement on the bottom with regards to the C40 actually. So that one has C40 underpinnings, and that one actually carries the new platform that you will see on our brand new XC90s as well. Now, a couple of cars that maybe are not too much in your vision here. We also have the Precept, which is going to be our Polestar 5. And this will be our entry into the large sedan segment, our luxury sedan segment. So this one is something we're very eager for. We actually just debuted this car at the Goodwood Festival in London. So definitely check that out as well. And then we have our Polestar 6. Polestar 6 will share the same platform as our Precept, but it will actually be the first tackle that we do on a fully convertible EV.
All right, well, Jonathan, I just want to thank you. Excellent job here explaining to me about not only the brand, the mission of the company, the different models, this showroom, which is beautiful here. Listen, if you're going to a concert at Lincoln Center, go a couple hours early and come by and say hi to Jonathan here in Midtown Manhattan.
You can come here, stop by, look at our vehicles. We always have a demo available, so you're more than welcome to also test drive our cars. And if you want to book one, you can always go to our website, polestar.com, book a test drive with us. And if not, book one that comes directly to your home. Get to experience the car directly at your personal comfort.
Excellent, Jonathan. Really good job. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm proud of everything you guys are doing here. So thanks again, everyone, for watching another episode of Out of Spec Dave, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.